In today's programme, our team of real governors will be tackling a hypothetical but realistic situation as it develops in a school. Today's challenging dilemma is about an internal promotion and the authority of the head teacher. Meet the panel. Eunice Evans, a chair of governors with over 15 years' experience. Andy Child, currently an LEA governor with 9 years' experience. And Jim Jones, a foundation and former parent governor with 12 years' experience, including 3 as chair. Assessing the governor's performance is Paul McGann, an education officer with 15 years of experience supporting and training governors and troubleshooting problems in schools. It's time to discover just how our panel will handle the challenge. A head teacher advertises internally for the post of Gifted and Talented Coordinator. The post attracts a management allowance and 2 candidates apply. After interviewing both, the head appoints the less experienced member of staff. Many other teachers at the school are amazed at the choice. The more qualified teacher who failed to get the job complains to the governors.
I mean, the first thing that struck me was why is the head interviewing on his own?
Yes, that as well.
Yes.
Because if there's another person there, at least
there's a balance.
That's a balance. Yeah. You know, if you like, the head would have to account to the other interviewers as well, right? It's his decision. But there'd be a reason to say, well, I want to appoint this person because. So he's already explained himself, and it would seem a more just and open, transparent process.
I'd have thought if the head teacher felt it was not appropriate to have another teacher or staff member there, they could have pulled in a governor.
Yes.
To act as a balance, as an independent voice.
Doesn't say how many management points the post attracted, and quite often it would be governors would become involved in maybe +4.
You know, there needs to be a policy at which point do you interview with someone else, and I would say everything, really, always, never interview on your own. And how useful are governors?
It is rarely, if ever, good practice for head teachers to interview candidates by themselves. But it's not necessary for governors to take part in every interview in order to have an influence over the way in which appointments are made. They can have a policy which says that no single person can interview, and they can decide that individual governors should take part in interviews for certain grades of posts.
The panel debate a suitable response to the complaint.
I mean, it could be that what he's looking for is potential and personal attributes that are outside formal qualification.
Yes.
And sometimes you'll get that. A very well-qualified person may not be the one for that job. But it's the same point. How, you know, should he account, and if he should account for what he's done to whom? And I would guess it would be to us.
So I'd like to have the head teacher explain the process that he employed and what, if any, feedback he gave to the teacher who didn't succeed. And if he'd followed that procedure, I don't think, I'd hope, that a complaint wouldn't have arisen following that.
And why should we have the complaint? The complaint should actually be handled within the school.
You know, we may say, well, you need to take this back down to a different level, and then we'll see it maybe later on.
Absolutely.
We can flag things up.
We may just want to bounce
because
it
it's
back.
taken to governors doesn't mean to say they've got
We've
to
got to
look
handle
at
it.
it.
Not at all.
It could lead to an issue with the governors having to interview the head teacher.
Yeah, we don't want to be in a compromised situation here. So therefore, back to the head saying, take this forward, please.
Governing bodies need to consider what to do when there's a complaint about the behaviour of the head teacher. It's inappropriate for any actions of the head teacher to be investigated by members of staff at the school, and therefore the responsibility for looking into these concerns does rest with the governing body, perhaps with the assistance of the local education authority.
As the governors look into the promotion, one teacher governor reluctantly brings to the attention of the chair that the head has been spending a lot of time with the promoted teacher outside of school hours. The chair decides to contact the head and raise the issue. He admits he and the promoted teacher are good friends and that they've been spending some time together socially, but he insists this did not affect his decision to promote. The head is furious with the teacher governor for raising it, and he's angry that his private life and his decisions are being questioned by his staff. The teacher governor is worried about whether she's done the right thing in coming forward with the information.
What a stupid head teacher. Oh dear, do you know, I just despair sometimes.
It seems the most blatant cock-up, really.
Yeah. Smacks of
Absolutely.
Error of judgment.
Oh, to interview by himself and for it to be known about the friendship, innocent as it may be.
They look very happy together on the film. I think it's more than we think.
They looked extremely happy together.
Did
I'm seriously worried about that.
I think as a manager of people, Head should have been fully aware that this situation would evolve.
Yes, yes. It's amazing that he didn't.
And that he should have built in controls and checks and balances within the recruitment process to ensure it was fair and open to all.
Yeah.
And brought in other people, as we said before, and who sat on the panel. So favouritism wasn't there.
No.
Maybe our policy wasn't followed. Maybe this appointment by a single interview by one person actually went against what we'd said should be the process for appointing. So we may actually have, well, a grievance against the head. I mean, it's one of those things that governing bodies hope never ever happens.
Yes.
That we're now in conflict with what the head has done. If he has gone against our procedures, then it could be disciplinary. This is where we look for advice.
We do. Straight from the
straight to the LEA.
Look,
ASAP.
What do we do about this? Where do we stand? But that's just one possibility. Or it may be the policy that we've got is wrong about appointments, and the actual problem stems from our own lack of awareness.
Our panel are rightly beginning to recognise this as an issue about the confidence in the head teacher's judgment. It's important that the whole governing body do not get involved in the details of this, as they may be required to make decisions later on. But here's an opportunity for the Chair of Governors to meet with the head teacher, either to reassure himself that a proper process has taken place, or to begin to plan what to do if there's been a breach of procedures.
My opinion is the teacher governor has nothing to be worried about, because in actual fact, they've stated a fact which is known in the school. It's a fact known by everyone in the school, it would appear. And so he shouldn't have any qualms about that. So
it seems to be about boundaries then. What is the head entitled to be furious about? I mean, if a member of the governing body makes a statement about the behaviour of the head teacher, well, that's the member of the governing body, whether it was you or me or anybody else.
Right.
The fact it's the teacher governor at this point is irrelevant. So maybe the head needs to have it pointed out to him where the limits of his authority lie, and it would have been just as wrong for the teacher governor to have kept this information quiet.
I don't think the teacher governor should be afraid of speaking out.
Yeah.
No.
Oh no, that should be made clear.
As long as the teacher governor has raised this issue first and foremost with the chair of governors rather than in an open governing body, then nothing untoward has taken place and the head teacher has no real right to feel annoyed. It's very important that teacher governors are able to feel that they can play a full and complete role on the governing body in the same way as any other individual governors. And it's up to the governing body to ensure that a climate exists where this can take place and that teachers can feel free to raise issues without fear of retribution within the school.
When the promoted teacher herself is questioned, she confesses she's having an extramarital affair with the head. The head argues he didn't lie about the affair, as no one has directly questioned him about it. The promoted teacher begins to suffer negative reactions from colleagues, and the other unsuccessful candidate demands she stands down. The story circulates, and several pupils at the school get wind of the affair.
People have an expectation of standards of behaviour, and for a head teacher to have an extramarital affair with a teacher, for me personally, goes beyond the pale.
So is that on general moral grounds, that this is a wrong thing to do, regardless of the context?
Yes, I think actually it is.
Right.
It's my belief, but also sometimes you have to, if you're in a position, you have to understand what goes with the territory. And if he doesn't feel capable of carrying on in that capacity, you know, that above everything else, what comes first for him is his affair, his friendship with the teacher, he may have to reconsider his position. People
in a senior position are role models, and a head teacher in the school is a role model not only to staff but also to the students. And has to understand that and respect it. So we are expecting, you know, a clean behaviour sheet, as it were, and this has gone on to the edges of this.
Yeah, for me, the point is this whatever his personal morals are, it's now intruded into the business
Yes.
of the school, and that's when it's crossed. It's when it becomes the abuse of trust, the abuse of authority, the misuse of power. I think that's when it gets definitely wrong. And I think that's where this head crossed it. His abuse of his position as an appointing officer to appoint somebody. I'm intrigued. I'm just thinking now, is this actually a possible dismissable offence? And we've mentioned the word dismissal. Would it be that bad?
Bringing the school into disrepute? I don't know.
Serious consideration by the chair.
Unless there is something specific in the school's code of practice or the way in which they appoint teachers, for instance in a church school, which relates directly to the morals of the person taking up the post, governors are on very tricky ground if they start trying to make judgments about the way in which individuals lead their lives. However, our panel have reached the point where they're considering the impact of the head teacher's judgment and the way in which the head teacher has conducted himself on the way in which the staff, the governing body and potentially the parents have confidence in him as a leader of the school. On this issue, it's right that the governing body begin to make some judgments, but they need to restrict it to the impact of the head teacher's actions rather than the root cause. If it can be determined through an appropriate investigation that the head teacher has acted in such a way that that confidence has been damaged and could have acted in a different way which wouldn't have led to that outcome, then it would be appropriate for the governing body to consider disciplinary action against the head teacher at this point.
Finally, the panel discuss what should be done about the promotion.
The promoted teacher is suffering now. Her colleagues are turning against her. Apart from, so that needs to be addressed, but the whole issue around whether she should have got the job
was it a sound appointment?
Is now, and I would say this latest information that we've got and this admission of an extra manager of the firm throws the whole thing open. I would say it's on the face of it, it's invalid. That this appointment just must be overturned.
But what can the governors overturn that appointment?
This is new information about one of the candidates that wasn't available at the time. I mean, I put it in that vein. We've now discovered something about you that wasn't known at the time of interview.
Yes.
So, sorry, appointment squashed. Back to square one. It's going to be re-advertised.
The governing body will need to seek legal advice at this point, and the precise nature of the advice they want is, does the admission by the teacher now strike at the very heart of the contract they may have issued between the governing body and her as to the future appointment? If it does, then the governing body will be quite entitled to rescind the appointment and run the whole process again. Personal relationships between staff members are bound to be sensitive issues, particularly if the head teacher is involved. In general, it's very difficult territory for a governing body to start being too prescriptive about the personal lives of their staff. However, it must be remembered that particularly head teachers and other senior staff have a responsibility to conduct themselves in such a way that they maintain the trust and integrity of the school population. And it's where this is threatened that governors may feel the need to take action. The time for deciding that you're not happy with a particular appointment process is not just after an appointment has taken place. If the governing body have a particular view on how appointments should be made within the school, including internal promotions, and how they should be conducted and what involvement governors should have, now's the time to review your policy to make sure that it says exactly what you want it to say. And finally, things occur from time to time in a school which might disrupt the school community. Individuals may come and go, but the governing body as an entity is continuous. There's a role to play for the governing body in ensuring that things are adequately dealt with and then getting the school back to normal as soon as possible afterwards.